So I figured out how to do something inside OBS that, in hindsight, was probably quite obvious, but it's something that I hadn't found a solution to until recently, and while looking online I hadn't found a solution to it either. And that is the ability to have effectively a downstream keyer inside of OBS. So I've got here 3 camera shots, and let's say I wanted to add, I mean they're colors, but let's pretend they're camera shots. Let's say I wanted to add a lower third to these. Previously what I've had to do would be to duplicate one of these shots, add the lower third, and then keep track of which is the clean shot and which is the shot with the lower third. And if I wanted that lower third to be able to appear on any of these 3 shots, I'd have to have an entire duplicate of each of these 3 shots. Obviously in a traditional switcher the way this would work is I would select a background layer, and then on top of that I would key my lower third, and then no matter what I did with the background layer, no matter which camera shot I switched to, that lower third will stay there until I pulled it off air. So I can now do that. You know, one button adds my lower third, or in this case giant text, to each of my 3 camera shots, and I can switch between them at will, and I'm hitting the same buttons that I would to switch to the clean feed. And in fact you can see I've only got these 4 sources here inside OBS, and I can hide it and I can show it at will, and you know, even mid-transition I can pull that that keyer on. And in fact I've actually got 2 here. I've got a white square. How inventive is that? But you know, I can have these 2 layers, and so now effectively OBS, which is a single layer program, I can have 1 scene on screen at a time, is now 3 layers because I've got this sort of downstream key, if you will. So setting this up is actually remarkably simple in the end. I've got my 3 main scenes here, and then I've got this DSK scene. And because you can bring a source, or rather, because you can bring a scene in as a source, this DSK scene is actually on top of each of my sort of normal camera shots. Now imagine this color source is actually my capture card. I've got the DSK on top of that. And so inside this DSK is sort of where the magic happens. I've got a group for each keyer, if you will, and then whatever I want inside that group. And so by showing and hiding these groups, I can effectively say what I want overlaid on top of each of my scenes. So the thing that's triggered this is that the Stream Deck software can now control groups, and seeing that in the update notes I'm like, oh, that is interesting. So, you know, there you go. I've got here a source button in the Stream Deck that in my DSK scene switches or activates and shows and hides one of these groups. And I mean, you can do this without groups. It's just the groups that made me think of that. And of course, you know, if I've got groups, I can, you know, add in. Let's get color source again because they're fun. Is that a blue? Great, cool. So now I've got this color source here, and I can have that transition on and off with the text there. And so yeah, that shows up on each of these scenes independently. The only downside to this I can think is that these don't transition. They're just hard cuts. You know, but for what I'm doing, that's totally fine, and I think the flexibility of being able to add this to all of the scenes without a whole lot of work, sort of duplicating things and keeping track of whether I'm on the clean feeds or whether I'm on the ones with the lower thirds or whatever, I think that's much easier. So I mean, that's it. You don't have to use a Stream Deck to do this. You could do this with keyboard shortcuts or with WebSockets if you liked. It's just the Stream Deck is what gave me the idea. So there you go. That's how you can effectively turn OBS into a multi-layer switcher.